Hey, so we got on the line Keith Pompey from the Philadelphia Inquirer and master of the Sixers and NBA. How you doing, Keith?
I'm doing well, better than the Michigan Wolverines.
Oh, wow. You
Record
you you
time.
decided to start with that. That you know what? That's rough. All right, just for that. So how much money did you lose in Vegas?
Actually, I don't gamble, dude. I don't
What
gamble at
happens in
all.
Vegas stays in Vegas, Jeff.
No, I
No.
I know what Keith did. He put down a bunch of money on Pitt winning the national championship in basketball and football.
Yeah, no, I wasn't drunk enough to do that. It wasn't that drunk. Yeah, that's a
So
sucker
Keith,
play.
you had a chance to go out to Vegas and spend some time watching the young 76ers, or the summer Sixers as they like to call them. Before we get to the rookies, can you tell us what you saw in Tyrese Maxey, and should we all be as excited about him as people seem to be?
You know, I say yes, but I want to put a little pause on it because the thing about Tyrese Maxey, I mean that was a great game, but he did certain things that we knew that he could do. The things that I wanted to see more is I want to see his assist a little bit higher. And again, Tyrese Maxey was phenomenal. 31 points to one game. He had 21 points the other game, and I think like 14 of them came in the first quarter, the first game he played. But I just want to see more assists because, going out there, they were saying that he was going to come and they wanted, like, he was going to show that he can be a point guard, a guy who can lead the team, a guy who can pass to his teammates. He was phenomenal, but he was more of a scoring point guard. And when he's going to get minutes this year and you're going to have Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris on the floor, it's going to be one of those things where they're going to be like, look, Rook, or look, second year guy, I'm wide open. Give me the ball. Give me the ball. So, yes, it's great to see him create for his own shot, but it's also one of those things you would love to see him, distribute a little bit more, so he can fit in nicely with Joel and Tobias.
The Sixers Twitter account clearly loves Paul Reed. So does the Blue Coats account. What did you see from him out there? He looked kind of dominant at times on the court.
He did, and it's funny because after not this past game, but this third game that they played, I asked him a question about, the positions and playing closer to the basket. And he really didn't get it, and maybe I didn't deliver it the right way. But afterwards, I pulled him to the side and I said, it just seems like you look more comfortable when you're closer to the basket than when you're out there in space. I said, when you're closer to the basket, you just react. You're out there in space, dribbling a little bit too much. You're trying to think about what to do. And I felt like it was a good move in the last game where they put him at the last game they lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves in overtime. They had him play the five. He was closer to the basket. He was able to go outside. He started in and out. He was able to go outside and make a couple things happen. He had 27 points, and he had 20 rebounds, and he also went 2 for 3 from three. So that was extremely impressive to me. That was the first time I saw him just go out there and play instead of thinking. So, yes, that was an impressive performance for him.
Did you two go out for Denny's afterwards?
Nah, I'm surprised he said that. Because the funny thing is, the funny thing is that like all we hear is, oh yes, we have them eating, the best food and healthy this and healthy that, and I'm like, Denny's, dude, that's not even IHOP. Like, you know what I mean? Like nothing against it, but it's like, yo, you're on the beach. I mean, you're in Vegas and you're talking about I'm eating Denny's food. I was cracking up.
Jeff was texting me. We're watching the game. This is what big losers we are. We're watching Summer League texting about it and Summer League overtime, and we're texting about it. But he said that Paul missed an opportunity for endorsement. He should have said that he had a Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity breakfast, and then he could have gotten an endorsement deal out of it with Denny's from that interview.
Yeah, I guess he just didn't want to like single out certain sandwiches. He wanted to say Denny's. I'll even like the dinner food. Something like that. But yeah, that was hilarious.
See, if he was still in college, he would have been all over that because that would have been NIL money up the wazoo for him.
Exactly.
He would have been rolling in it into Paul. So we've now gone through a couple of the guys that were with the team last year. Ray John Tucker, I still don't get it. What do they see in him? I'm not saying there's nothing there. We just haven't
Athleticism.
seen him enough to know what is it about them that they like so much.
I mean, he's an athletic guy. He's kind of versatile. He's a pretty good defender on that level. I think that right now they're just trying to figure out what they have in him. Tuck is a guy who's extremely athletic. I mean, extremely. And when he was in college, he was a dude who shot, I believe it was 44% on three. I could be a little off, but I know it was over 41, right, on three, and he attempted like 6 attempts a game. So he shot the ball a lot. So when you look at him, he's one of those quintessential, let's give him a try. He can develop into becoming, a solid 3-and-D guy from the bench. And he's not making a lot of money. He's not going to demand a lot of money on the market as far as a contract. So I think that's one of those things to look at it. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I was joking with him one day, and I was saying, man, I'm like, because he was a high school football player, and I said, man, people telling me you look like a linebacker. And he says, nah, not a linebacker, maybe a safety. I said, nah, bro. At 6'4", you're a straight up linebacker. I mean, this dude is put together. I mean, he looks like a bona fide football player out there. He could be an all-pro tight end the way he looks, but he's huge. But he's athletic, and I think you got to take a chance and take a look at him, see what you could get.
I'm going to ask you about the other two-way player, Aaron Henry. What's the team seeing out of him, and what have you seen, and what do they expect out of him?
They like him. I think right now he's trying to find his niche to see what he can do. Like let's face it, you come to a rookie summer league team, and typically the rookie guys are the showcase. On this squad, he's not even. I mean, he started the last game, but for the most part, they're like coming off the bench, fulfilling a role. So I think he has to find his niche. Now he's also a guy that late in the second round, there were certain teams who contacted his agent and said, hey, we really want to take a stab at him. We're going to draft him. And they were encouraged not to because he had a two-way deal already set up with the Sixers once the Sixers didn't draft him. So, the Sixers are high on him. He's a guy who had a quad injury and he wasn't able to compete at the combine. But then he came back and did something like 9 workouts in 12 days. So is one of those things. He probably would have been a draft pick if he would have participated in the combine early second round, maybe mid-second round, but he chose not to, and the Sixers are extremely high on him right about now.
All right. Well, the only thing that matters to my co-host is that the next guy makes the team and has an impact quickly, because he wants to be able to buy a jersey that has Springer on the back.
A jersey. I can't rock jerseys. They don't look good on me.
So what did you see out of Jaden Springer, and what do you think his role could be by midseason this season?
And no, we're not distant cousin.
But the thing about Jaden is he's extremely young. Let's just put that there. And more so like when we talked about Henry, the kid from Michigan State, I think that Springer is feeling the blunt of that more so as well. Like, he's typically the first-round pick. And the first round pick, we talk about showcasing rookies, you definitely showcase the first-round pick. Well, this isn't happening here. Like, here's a guy who's listed as a combo guard, but he was a point guard, but he was listed as a combo guard. Well, so he no longer has the ball in his hands. You have him playing small forward, being stationed in the corner. So he's basically looking around and seeing what's going on. Like, he's not that heavily involved in the offense at all. Now, the one thing I will say is that he showed me some glimpses. Like, there was a time when there was an errant pass that B-Ball Paul threw to him. He retrieves the ball. He does a spin move on the guy at the three-point line. He drives the lane, goes up and under the basket, and the ball kisses off the gas, and he scores a bucket. Then there was another time where he did, he did like a dribble move, did a step back into a three. So he showed some glimpses. Even last night he hit, not last night, but, even earlier this week he hit a three. So, he shows glimpses, but at the same time, when you look at him, you can tell the way that he's being utilized that he's probably going to spend a lot of time in the G League this summer. Just because, there's not going to be a lot of opportunities for him. He's a pretty good defender. I mean, he gets a lot of steals. He plays well. But when you look at him, you can't say that he's above Maxey, Isaiah Joe, Matisse Thybulle, Shake Milton. So he's a guy who's 18 years old, who has an upside. But right about now, I feel like he's going to be better suited for the G League than actually getting minutes on the Sixers this year.
So Jason's going to need to buy a blue coat Springer jersey?
Yeah, he can buy a blue coat jersey, but I'll also get a Sixer one because, I mean, he seems like he's going to be a part of the future. So it's not like you're going to rock something and he's going to be traded, come October.
That's right, Jeff. He's going to be here longer than I'll be on any team, that's for sure. Wanted to ask you a couple other players. Isaiah Joe, who had a slight injury in the game the other night, and Frank Mason Jr., before I get to the one that I'm curious about in Dashin Nix. So what are you seeing out of Isaiah and Frank Mason?
I really like Isaiah. I mean, Isaiah Joe, is a guy who he bulked up. He added some weight. He's like 175. He was 160-something when he first got drafted. I didn't know he was that small. The thing about Isaiah, we knew that he could shoot the ball, right? You know that he can shoot. But it was one of those other things that you're saying, what else does he bring? And then, like last year, he showed us that he could defend, right? And when he got in the game with the Sixers. This year in Summer League, this summer, he's showing that he can create for himself. He can create for others. Before, he got injured, heading into that game, he was second in the league and made three-pointers in the Summer League at 4.7 per game. So he's, a good shooter, but he was also slashing to the basket. He was doing a lot of other things. So
Keith, he seemed to be running the pick and roll well with Paul Reed, which obviously on this team becomes important with anybody that plays with Joel.
Exactly, and so he's showing us that he's a more well-rounded basketball player. And Mason, I don't know if there's a spot for him on a Sixers team. Like I could see him probably getting a training camp invite, and then they give him one of those Exhibit 10 contracts where if you stay with the G League team, you'll get a bonus. But I just don't see him. When I look at him, you have to compare him to Shake Milton. Is he better than Shake? No. Is he better than Maxey? No. Springer's the future, so to speak. I don't really see a spot for him in regards to being on the Sixers roster. So I can see him, if he doesn't have any other offers, that maybe he's someone that they can have for the G League team. I just don't see it right now for him.
I wasn't familiar with Dashin Nix before the Summer League. I didn't really follow the Ignite team last year for the G League. He's obviously a very raw young.
Wait, you didn't? There's a sporting event you didn't watch?
I watched, but I didn't realize, his role in that he was the player that they had on the Summer League.
Just to clarify, you were staring at the television.
Of course I was, Jeff. You know this. Keith, Jeff has a problem with the fact that I'm a total loser and will watch overtime Summer League while watching fourth quarter of Thursday night football. So in the preseason, by the way. So he has an issue with that. But so Dashin Nix is a very raw point guard. Is that somebody that they can stash with the Bluecoats and try to develop him?
It could be. Could be. He's someone, like you said, who has an upside. But, I can see that happen. He could be someone. But, he's also young. Like, when he got in, there were certain times where I saw him, and sometimes he looked good. Other times you could tell he was young, making young mistakes. But, that could be an option. Again, he's one of these guys where I thought maybe just because he played with that team that he would probably get more minutes, be more heavily involved in the offense in the scheme. But then you look at it again, like, he's also a guy that you don't want to put out there to showcase for other teams a lot, right? So you give him a certain amount of minutes. But yeah, he could be a candidate for that, a guy who could go to the G League. But he's so young. I also think that he's going to get some other teams that probably come after him as well.
All right, let's talk for a minute about the old dudes. So we got Danny Green that resigns, but most important, you have Andre Drummond signing and Dwight Howard leaving. What does that do for the Sixers? And are Andre Drummond and Joel Embiid going to go out for a meal together?
They're the new Bobby and Toby, Jeff. Didn't you know?
Yeah, they're going to have the next Michelob Ultra commercial. That's what they're going to do. It's like, no. I mean, it's weird because, when you talk to Drummond about the rivalry, talking about the rivalry he had with Joel, where Joel used to always trash talk him and, do all this other stuff to him, he says, well, it's no biggie. Like, it wasn't like what people thought. And I kind of figured that too. Like, I always thought it was like Ali Frazier, where you hear the stories about how, Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier would hop in the car in Philadelphia and have a great old time driving up there. And as soon as they got to New York to where the promotion was, Ali would jump out the car and just start berating him. And Frazier was always like, we just rode up here together. What are you doing? And then that's how it became a little rivalry, so to speak.
Yeah, you would have thought he would have caught on at some point.
Yeah, you would have thought, and I kind of think that that's initially how it happened, because I remember when first time I was in Detroit, and I spoke to a reporter from Detroit about the rivalry. I should say the first time I was in Detroit once they had this rivalry, right? And the reporter was like, Andre said they're friends, and you later find out that these guys were more cordial than what people thought. And the same thing with other centers that Embiid used to attack. And I felt like Ali did, Embiid was great with promotions. And he would let's bring the center position back. And that was a way that he would go after people. Now, in regards to him being a backup center for Embiid, I don't have a problem with that. I think that, it's more of a sign that, he didn't get what he wanted. He didn't have the offers that he expected. And this was the best offer that he had. And when you look at a guy like Dwight Howard is in his mid-30s. This guy is in his 20s. And it's going to be one of those things where he's younger than him. He can do certain things that Dwight can't at this particular time. And I felt like, there were certain times when, I loved Dwight, a great player, a future Hall of Famer. But it was sometimes where it was all about Dwight, and, he would pick up crazy technicals and things like that. I mean, we all know that Joel Embiid is not going to be able to play all 82 games. He'll probably miss 20. So when you have a guy like Andre Drummond for 20 games who could come in and start, I think that's beneficial. Because as good as Dwight Howard was, it came to a point when Embiid didn't start. Dwight couldn't start because of him and Simmons couldn't really mesh well together on a court as far as 2-9 shooters. I'm not saying Drummond's a better shooter, but the hope is that Drummond would at least be able to start when Embiid doesn't. And let's face it, he was an all-star as recent as 3 seasons ago. So I like that pickup for what they had to give up.
I know he's younger, but what I'm struggling with is, does he have enough in the tank to really contribute? Because I can't figure out what the Lakers were doing, that they were DNPing him in the playoffs.
Well, it didn't really work well. It didn't work well with him and him. Like, I never thought him going to the Lakers was a good fit, right? Because
his former
agent
agent's the general manager.
Yeah, of course.
Part of that fit.
Yeah,
Jeff.
But it was but it was like you have Andre Drummond, who's a big, who basically needs the ball, right? He's one of these bigs who he's not quite like a rim runner, so to speak, going back and forth, shot blocking. Now he does he does shoot blocks, but he's not like the role playing center who can who's extremely athletic, who can hit some threes and do all this other stuff. Nah, you had to feature him, right? You have to feature him. That's the reason why him and Embiid had such a rivalry, because they were both featured. So you put him on a team where you also you got all stars in the center and the power forward and the small forward and LeBron James and Anthony Davis. It's not going to work out because he's not that type of big who's like get out of the way and do this and do that. You're losing some effectiveness. So
Keith,
I think that.
Sorry, Keith,
Go ahead.
Keith, you mentioned shooting threes out in California. This is my least favorite time of year because I got Ben Simmons shooting threes out in California on my video timeline. How long are we going to have to put up with this before something is done?
Until something is done. That's how long you have to put up for it. I mean, it's that time of year again, man. Like, I tweeted out today, hey, it's that time of year for me to reintroduce myself to my family, right, and friends. It's that time of year for you to put up with these videos.
It's Groundhog Day, Keith.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Right.
I mean, you have
He
to
made
put up with
two.
that.
You guys, you just don't. You're not focusing on the positive. He made two.
Yeah, and he banked one of them that was the shot from the Timberwolves guard that forced overtime in Summer League the other day. It's not what he was hoping to do. Keith, don't let Jeff try and be an apologist for here. I have the most important question, more important than Ben Simmons, before we let you go. Now that you're getting all this family time, will you be binge watching Hard Knocks Dallas Cowboys? Because we know how big a fan you are.
Nah, I won't. But let me tell you what I'm binge watching. Now, this might sound crazy to you. I have two shows that I love, right? And I taped it. So I watched the 2 episodes this morning when I got up that I missed. So it's crazy. One is called Love After Lockup. So, like, I watched it, and I'm cracking up because some of these people, you're like, dude, I know you're not falling for that. No, please don't tell me you're going to fall for that. And they do. And then there used to be, and I used to, like, binge watch, like, Naked and Afraid. It's like where people go, they just, like, it's not, like, sexual or nothing like that. But what they do is they go into, like, a deserted area or out in the wilderness, right? And they'll basically, like, be out there for 21 days with no clothes, and they have to fend for themselves as far as, like, killing animals to eat, and it's like a survival a thing. So, like, you look at it, and it's like, I check those things out. I know I'm weird, right?
Yeah,
but
Jeff
this is what my enjoyment is.
After those questions, Keith, I don't think that's the direction that Jeff thought you were going to take that answer at all.
Nah, like, now here's the thing. Like, the Cowboys is going to be entertaining to watch it just because, Jerry Jones is going to be over the top, and they're going to have all these different storylines. But to me, like, it would have been better if they would have had, like, the Giants on there maybe, or probably, like, the Eagles so we could laugh at them. But, other than that, it's like, nah, I'm not watching it.
Well, Jeff is still trying to analyze your answer. I see him on video kind of stroking his beard, trying to figure out.
I'm just stunned. Like, I never even heard of these shows. What station are they on? How old am I?
I think one comes on the History Channel. No, Discovery. Naked and Afraid. The other one, I don't know, dude. Like, I forget. But and I shouldn't say forget. You know how, like, you're up late at night and you see something, you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. So then you just, like, hit the record on your thing, and it just keeps popping up. So each time it comes up, the episode I have, it comes on, like, at 9 o'clock on Friday. And I just, like, I don't know, man. It's so many channels now. But you know what it is? It's like one of those things, you're home, and I wake up extremely early, right? So it's like I'll turn on the TV, and next thing you know, like, I'll look and I'll see, like, what's on, like, what's trending right now, and I'll click on it. And I'm like, oh, my God. Did this guy just buy her, like, 3 pairs of Jordans and a watch? And then, like, it's just crazy. I mean, and it's like there's certain people, apparently, that's what they're into. They write letters to people, and they become pen pals, and then they propose to them, So, but it's funny because it's like, it's like reality. It's like bad TV, you know what I mean? It's just bad TV, but it's funny.
We're time for you to write a column about it.
We're going to have to make this a regular segment, Keith's TV picks or something like that. We're definitely going to have to do more with you with this. Keith, thanks so much for giving us time. Always go hang out with your family a little bit. Enjoy not being in Vegas. And I look forward to following you at Pompey on Sixers, at Locked On Sixers podcast, in the Inquirer, and wherever else you can find Keith Pompey.
All right. Thanks, fellas. Thanks for having me on.
Have a good one.